The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, we get a chance to speak with the students who are the boots on the ground for the Latino Election Project here at NEPM about their experiences and the lessons that they may take from it.
And Word Nerd Emily Brewster, resident Webster and senior editor at Merriam Webster, takes us to the moon to explore the names we've given to them.
But first, back to the hill towns.
For produce.
Time for Local Hero Spotlight with Jacob Nelson of CISA, the local hero, folks, and Nan Parati. Nan Parati was sitting in the lobby, and our president walked in, and I said, "This is Nan Parati," and he said, "I know you, and I don't know why." Well, yeah, everybody knows Nan Parati, and they may not know why, and that is because if you've ever seen a hand-drawn sign anywhere in the Connecticut River Valley, the likelihood that Nan is the one who hand-drew that sign
is like 98%.
Yeah, right. Even where we sit in our little fabulous 413 corner where our desks are when we're not here in the studio is surrounded by Nan Parati signs that you've drawn for the Green River Festival for us and for the Asparagus Festival for us. Nan is also famous for having previously run Elmer's in downtown Ashfield, that wonderful breakfast/brunch joint. And maybe someday soon we'll hear an update about what may or may not happen with that location. But Nan, you've taken over the winter market that is to happen in Ashfield.
Yes, my very favorite thing in the whole world to do is bring people together and have a good time. And so during COVID, when nobody was doing any of that, we have the farmers market, the outdoor farmers market in Ashfield. And at the end of that season, I went to the select board and I said, "We need to keep going. Can we do it inside?" And they said yes.
Nice.
And so that's what we started. We're on our 4th year now, which is so exciting. And every Saturday morning in Town Hall at Ashfield, we do the winter market. And we have like 18 vendors, and it's food, and it's crafts, and it's everything. We do it all the way up to Christmas so people can get together and have a good time and buy stuff and eat stuff, and it's fun.
And then wait, you stop after Christmas?
Yeah, I don't care about Christmas. I'm done.
Oh, but then what? What's the likelihood that you can continue it after Christmas? When the holidays are over, then I get in my real winter depression, and something like a winter's market would pick up my spirits.
That's true, and that makes sense. No, sorry, we're not doing that. No, I have to go to New Orleans to be the art director for the Jazz Fest right after that.
And
so,
I want to talk about that in just a second.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Ashfield Winter Market is not the only winter market in the valley.
That's great.
Monty. So that's maybe where you could get your fix. I know Greenfield just started their indoor winter market. Springfield just started their indoor winter market. There's something going on in Holyoke. You can find a lot.
Northampton's had one for ages in the senior center.
That's going to start in a couple of weeks. So go to Ashfield. They may not be as fun as Nan's because few people are as fun as Nan.
That's true.
But they are around.
Yeah.
And I'll say that, I lived in the valley long enough to know that there were no winter markets at all. And so all the fun went away when the farmers market season was over. But then I think it's coming up close to 20 years ago now. Juanita Nelson, who used to live on Woolman Hill as a food justice and social justice advocate and one of my great heroes, was like, same thing that Nan said. What if we do this indoors in the wintertime? And started the Greenfield Indoor Winter Market, which kind of began the process of all these other places following suit and continuing the agricultural season throughout the whole season, which is a balm to my soul.
And it's the only good thing about climate change. We now have, even 4 years ago, there were no vegetables at the winter market in Ashfield because there were no more winter vegetables left over. And now we got plenty of them.
But plus there's hothouses and things like that.
That's true, too.
I was going to say, there's a lot of farmer ingenuity.
Yeah, whatever.
But,
to go on top of the fact that we changed a whole area that we now are growing in. We're no longer 5B, we're now 6.
Right. I'm not endorsing climate change. I'm just saying I'm always looking for the bright side of everything. Well, at least there's that. We get squash.
Well, speaking of climate change, you, Nan, were brought to Ashfield because you were essentially a climatological refugee. Can you tell us that story?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. 2005, I got invited to come up to do the write the signs for Green River Festival, and thinking it was just going to be for a couple weeks, I came up and did that. Stayed with a friend of mine who happened to live in Ashfield. Loved Ashfield. Kept looking around going, man, this is the coolest little town. This is the coolest little town. So I have to say that at one point I actually said out loud, and I've been guilty ever since, felt guilty. I said, wouldn't it be fun if for some reason I couldn't go back to New Orleans right away? Mm-hmm. God said, oh, that's what you want? Watch this. Send out the runner, got a hurricane, brought it back to New Orleans, wiped out New Orleans, and every single thing I owned was gone.
That was Katrina.
That was Hurricane Katrina. And that's how I ended up living in Ashfield and why I'm here to this day. But I created Katrina.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's something you want to take credit for.
I know,
but I don't. I feel like there's a lot of people who would have conversations with you about
but
that.
I have to take.
Is that the real reason you're hiding in the hills of Ashfield, where there's very little internet reception?
Right,
Yeah.
that's why. Yeah, but
Well, I know.
Yeah,
I know
be
that.
careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for. And I know that part of that story is one that you told at CISA's Field Note storytelling event. I think, was that the first year we did it way back in 2018?
Yeah.
About winding up owning Elmer's restaurant in Ashfield.
Yeah. I just kept going down and looking at it and thinking, wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? I missed community. Even though I lived in New Orleans, I was working in production all the time. I was touring with Jimmy Buffett. I'm not at all complaining. But in that world, you don't really touch your life anymore. And that's what I loved about Ashfield was people did their thing. They had to think about stuff. You can't just run to the store because the store is 30 miles away in Greenfield.
Yeah.
You can't just, you grow your own food. And that's what really appealed to me about the whole thing. And then that little place, Elmer's, was sitting there. It had been empty for 3 years. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to buy this place and turn it into a little community thing? And I asked the people in Ashfield what they wanted for that place, because I know you don't just march in a place, especially if you're from away, and decide you're going to do something. You got to ask the people. So I did. And they said they wanted a breakfast spot. And that's how Elmer's was born, as a breakfast restaurant. And then we added lunch and dinner. And then it became a thing.
It became a thing. And if you want to hear that whole story, that is online on YouTube, on CISA's YouTube.
Yeah.
Mixed in with all the other Field Note storytellers that have taken the stage over the years.
Yeah.
And this is actually the first day that I've met Nan in person, but I was telling her when I called her on the phone last week that I've seen her Field Note story online like 6 or 7 times. So I'm like, I think I know you, but you don't know anything about who I am.
I know your name.
But that's true. I'll just throw in a small plug, because CISA is recruiting folks to take the stage for the next Field Notes that's going to happen in February. So up until the day before Thanksgiving, anyone that has any stories related to local food or farming, and if you have any inclination thinking it would also be fun, like Nan says often, this would be fun to get up on stage in front of some people with a lot of coaching and with a lot of help to tell a story about something cool that's happened in your life, then please do apply, and we'd love to hear your story and help you do that.
Cool. We'll link to where you can do that in the show notes. But also, speaking of community, Nan, you're having an event on Friday to bring people together to dance out whatever they're feeling.
Exactly. There's a band called Timeless, and they are young. They're all way in their early 20s, but they are so good. They even played at Newport Jazz Festival this summer. And I wanted to do something, again, I love bringing people together. And as Pete Townsend said, while rock and roll won't cure your troubles, it'll help you dance all over them. So I feel like we need something to have a good time, bring people back together. And that's this Friday night, 7:30, Ashfield Town Hall.
And that's the location where the next day the winter market will be?
Yes, I'm not going home. I'm just going to stay there all night.
And we're speaking with Nan Parati, who is now identified with the town of Ashfield here in the Connecticut River Valley, but for many people also very much identified with New Orleans, where you used to live and where you will be returning to your role as the artistic director of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. What is that role? I know it's not agriculturally related, but people from this area love, I think, New Orleans music and New Orleans food. What does that role entail?
Oh, well, gosh, everything. All the design. If you go to the Jazz Festival, just about every single thing you see on site is something I designed and had fabricated, built, And I used to have, back in New Orleans when I lived there, I had a design studio called Stronghold Studios, and which has now been passed on to some young people that I really love, and so they still build everything. But I get to design it, and it's just so much fun. And you know what I love? I'm just going to say this out loud. You know what I love? Almost every time somebody famous dies, and a musician, and they show the picture, it's almost always against one of my backdrops. And I love that. It makes me like, I did that. That's cool. They liked it.
So not only did you make Katrina happen,
exactly.
You killed all of our favorite artists.
No, I just revered them. You're in trouble.
If you had to pick one...
He's in trouble. You keep taking the credit for these things.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
You kind of snowbird, but like I'm curious if you get to engage with the agricultural community there in the same way that you do here.
No, not at all. Not one bit. New Orleans is, I mean, there are farmers markets there, but I don't, here is just so much more agricultural. There, every place I look around, all I see is trees and cows. So it's a whole different world. That's much more of a city. Although I like it, but I don't. You have to go out into the parishes to get to the cows.
I'm noticing there's a list on a piece of paper next to you, Nan, with a bunch of all-star farms from around here. Is that actually the vendor list for the market?
Yes, our vendor list from the market. We've got Good Bunch Farm. We've got Livingstone Mycology. Do you know them? They do mushrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
People love it when they're there. So that's the other thing. It kind of switches out every week. It's free to the vendors. They don't have to pay for it.
Oh, nice.
Every
That's
week.
amazing.
I know, and that's because of the select board in Ashfield said, we just want people to get together too. So yeah, you can have it for free. So it's really exciting. And so every week I send out an email to all the different farms and say, who wants to come this week? Or all the different vendors. But among them, Kate Stevens, who does dried flowers, Le Petit Oiseau Bakery, Davenport Maple, and then Barbaric Farm. I love them because her name is Barb, his name is Eric, so they're the Barbaric Farm. They do all kinds of really great relishes and things like that.
Too bad they don't have like a daughter or somebody named Hannah, because then they could be Hannah Barbaric's world of super adventure.
I'll tell them that. But Freeman
Delights.
Farm with locally grown meats, and we have then all kinds of different breads. Yeah, the woman who making breads, she showed up last week with this mountain of breads and sold out in 23 minutes.
That tracks.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So it's all kinds of it's farm work, it's clothing that people make, it's soaps that people make, it's everything is homemade. It's all right there. You find it around here, but you don't find it in the bigger world.
Yeah.
And it's exciting.
Yeah. And it's important, I feel like, especially in winter markets, to have that mix of like both agriculture and craft.
Yes.
Too. There's nothing wrong with just going out and getting your vegetables, but it is also very nice to get a little something nice for yourself or somebody else.
Absolutely. And I'm a #1 fan of shopping locally. I don't even shop online at all because I want to shop with the people that I love here in the area. So I'm a huge fan of that, too. Another reason why I wanted to do this, to give people the chance to sell their stuff.
Nan Parati, who is running the Ashfield Winter Market, which will be Saturdays through Christmas, and who has a storied history, is a great storyteller, as you might have known. And are you still writing a column for the Greenfield Recorder as well?
Yes, indeed.
What's the name of that column again?
I forgot. That's not the name of
It's
it.
something like, and then what happened?
Yeah, that's it. And then what happened? That's the name of it, yes. I just write it. I read it too, but I already know the title, so I don't read the title. Yeah, the one that...
I don't know what it is. I put it down on paper and it's gone.
That's
It's
right.
gone forever.
I got stuff to do. But yesterday I wrote almost the entire column because I was writing about the concert coming up, so I wrote the whole column in puns using titles of those songs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it's worth reading.
I can't wait to read
I
that
mean,
one.
yes. Written puns. I love.
Even when I wrote some puns for the Judge John Hodgman show last week, Khalees laughed about them.
Oh,
Yes.
good.
Because they were better than what you usually do.
Because I'm just spitballing most of the time.
Right.
Tell us one more time about that show on Friday.
The name of the band is Timeless, and it is going to be timeless, and it's all hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Ashfield Town Hall starts at 7:30. We still have tickets. Come on. It's going to be fun. I'm going to have chairs around the edges so you can just sit, or you can get up and dance, and you should, wear your mini skirts and your leather jackets and your headbands and your love beads. You don't have to, but it'd be fun if you did.
And you can crash on the floor of the Ashfield Town Hall like Nan is going to, because that is where the Ashfield Farmers Market, Winter Market, will be the very next day.
Don't do that. You'll be in the way of the farmers who need to come, the farmers and craft people who need to come and set up. Unless
That's
you're going to help.
That's upstairs, and then there's downstairs is the market, upstairs is the dance. Y'all can come. Got plenty of room for you. And you too.
And Jacob Nelson, who is the U2, tell us one more time if people have a story they want to tell that has to do with farming or food for CISA's Field Notes, which will be happening when? February?
CISA's it's the February 8th is the show. And it is Wednesday, November 27th, so the day before Thanksgiving, that we're asking people if you'd like to pitch a story to be part of that show, to pitch it to us on our website, buylocalfood.org. And I like to say that everyone eats, and so everyone has a food story. And we really want this show to be a real snapshot of as diverse a set of storytellers and experiences as there possibly can be in Western Mass that relate to local food.
Well, we hope to have you on again soon to hear what the future of Elmer's in Ashfield may hold.
Yes,
Nan
because
Parati.
there are very few places where I can get proper gumbo. A lot of people say they're making it, But a lot of people are wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'm not a huge pancake fan, but the Elmer's pancakes were something else.
Oh, they are really good.
Yeah.
That was Gray's Sugar House pancakes, yeah.
And you can find out more about the Ashfield Winter Market and all the winter markets in our area from our friends at CISA, like Jacob Nelson. If you go to CISA's website, buylocalfood.org. Laissez le bon temps rouler.
Oui, bien sûr.
If you, too, are one of those folks who are missing Elmer's Restaurant in Ashfield, Nonparati did mention that they've been doing a Friday morning Elmer's breakfast pop-up there from 7:30 to 11 a.m. on Fridays, weekly thing. Check their Facebook page for more information about when that happens and how.
Coming up, the young reporters of the Latino Election Project and a look at the stories they discovered about the Latino vote in Western Massachusetts with NEPM and the Latino newsletter.
But up next, Word Nerd Emily Brewster, senior editor at Merriam Webster in Springfield, takes us to the moon.
I thought that was Mr. Universe's job on Monday's show.
Not today. We're talking about the names of our moon next. You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
We're going to talk about names of moons.
Oh, this ties in so nicely.
Yay.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. Emily Brewster, resident wordster from Merriam Webster, our dictionary in Springfield. We should do a big mashup segment because just a couple of months ago, we had Mr. Universe, Hampshire College astronomer Dr. Salman Hamid on with us, talking with the folks from the national radio show Radio Lab about the naming of a quasi-moon in our solar system, as well as somebody from the International Astronomical Union, who is the official international body that names celestial objects. Sucks to your International Star Registry. That is fake.
It is.
This holiday season, give the most unique and memorable gift of the year. Name a star after someone. I'm Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry.
But you want to talk today about the names of moons.
Yes, we have an exciting moon coming up. I mean, there's always an exciting full moon coming up, right?
Great.
Yeah. And this is I forget, I saw the headline of this story about what's exciting about this moon, but I didn't really actually read it. What's exciting about this moon coming up?
And why is it more exciting than the beaver moon?
Well, it is the beaver moon, but it is also a super moon.
The beaver moon is always super.
I guess.
Leave it to Beaver.
Leave it to Beaver.
Gee, Wally, it says here they're clean, funny little animals.
It does remind me of a piece of artwork that I saw while I was in Montreal, which is kind of lampooning colonialism and represents all of the indigenous peoples as beavers.
Uh-huh.
It's amazing.
Khalees, did you watch that Thousands of Beavers?
I did not.
There was this movie called Thousands of Beavers that Khalees and I are both interested in. I know they showed it at Amherst Cinema last week, but I was occupied at the Judge John Hodgman live podcast.
I did have my dad put it on the Family Plex server.
Yeah, but we both want to watch that. So the beaver moon is coming up. Why do they call it the beaver moon, Emily Brewster?
Well, it's a little disputed. It could be because November is when the beavers are really busy preparing for the first frost of the year. Mm-hmm. Or other sources say that it comes from the Native American practice of setting beaver traps in November so that they can use the pelts for warmth
to get
in the
warm.
winter months.
Yeah.
But the combination of beaver moon and super moon is, I think, what makes this one kind of exceptional. You know, super moon, right?
Yes.
Supermoon is not a technical term.
Isn't it a little bit, though? Isn't it a little bit closer than it usually would be in its orbit?
Well, yes. I mean, that is what it is, right? It's a full moon that occurs when the moon is at or near the closest point to Earth in its orbit. So it is a real thing. It is a real phenomenon. This is the last of 4 consecutive supermoons, I believe, in this year in 2024.
Wait, is Earth's prodigal baby trying to come back to us?
Yes, for those who haven't been following, the moon is probably Earth's baby, meaning that a giant comet or asteroid probably hit us a long time ago and shot the rock that is now the moon out, that then spun itself into its global shape, that now orbits our Earth and controls our tides to a large extent. But yeah, so supermoon is what we call it, but it does have some sort of scientific backing. This is a fun mashup.
Yeah.
We should. Too bad Salman Hamid's en route to China right now, or I would have cut him on the horn.
I like all these monthly moons, though. Right?
They have
like
fun names.
Do you know what the next one is?
No.
Is it the wolf's moon or something like that?
No, that's a different one. The one that comes next after this beaver full moon is the long night moon.
Oh,
Yeah.
good night.
Isn't that sweet?
Chair.
Look, Maggie, Christopher Walken's reading Goodnight Moon.
Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Please, children, scooch closer. Don't make me tell you again about the scooching.
Right,
Good
good
night.
night moon. It's the moon that's nearest to the winter solstice. It's also called the moon before Yule.
The moon before Yule is too long of a name for
Yes,
the moon.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right.
Etc., etc., etc.
And long night moon, it just has a really nice ring to it.
Well, it
I
sounds
think.
like Goodnight Moon, which is that cute little book that is very odd when you think about it. There's a rabbit person knitting in a chair and saying goodnight to your hairbrush and other random objects in the room. But
I thought the baby was also a rabbit.
I think they're all
Yeah,
rabbits.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they're all rabbits. Yeah.
Have you seen the Dune version of it?
No, I can't wait. Goodnight Dune.
Good night, Dune.
Good Night, Dune by Julia Yu. In the great No Room, there was a floating baron, and a view of two moons, and a picture of Shai Hulud bursting out of the dune.
I'll watch the David Lynch Rabbits, which is this, it's part of Inland Empire, actually, but you can watch the whole thing, and it's just like a rabbit family. And I've imagined now that that's the family that then goes and lives Goodnight Moon out.
Black, old blood, yellow, saliva, dark room, broken window, cold.
For some reason, I thought you were going to segue that into like David Lynch's version of Mice and Men. And I'm like, that's also...
David Lynch is the linchpin with this, with both Dune and rabbits. You remind me today of a small Mexican chihuahua.
And when you became Denise, I told all your colleagues, those clown comics, to fix their hearts or die.
Anyway, that's enough David Lynch talk.
What are the other moons? The only other one I can think of is Strawberry.
That's the one I can think of. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Strawberry Moon. That's in June, I believe,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Well, the first one of the year is the Wolf Moon.
Okay, so January, so it's only a month off.
Yep, only a month off. Right, June is the Strawberry Moon. There's the Harvest Moon, which is nearest the time of the September equinox.
Also the best sort of late catalog Neil Young album and song.
And song.
Come a little bit closer.
Yeah. The Hunter's Moon is the full moon after the Harvest Moon.
Then there's the Hunter's Laptop Moon.
No.
A blue moon. Do you know what a blue moon is technically?
Isn't it when there's 2 full moons in a month?
Yes. A blue moon, second full moon in a calendar month. We say that there's the phrase, once in a blue moon that describes something very rarely, but it's not, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there are all that rare.
I know.
Right?
So once in a blue moon happens more frequently than you'd think. Yeah.
One of them's got to be doubled up.
Right. So if you want to say that something is really rare, maybe you shouldn't say once in a blue moon. Hell freezing over is maybe better.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
I once heard a stand-up comedian say, my mom told me I was 1 in a million, which means there's 1,000 of me in China. So also not that rare.
Also, like people that I know that are Yoopers would say like hell freezes over every year.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because there's a hell Michigan.
There's a great Yooper, Emily Brewster. Our Emily Brewster has a great Yooper connection. Ooh. You put Yooper in the dictionary, right?
I did.
Yes.
Yay!
There's
a long campaign.
Incredible backstory to this story that we should get into once again here again. But yes, Yooper and Emily Brewster are hand in glove, or mitten, I guess, in this case, because Michigan's shaped like a mitten.
Yeah.
And the Upper Peninsula is where Yooper comes from, if people aren't familiar with that term.
The part that probably should be Canada, but somehow isn't.
Yeah, maybe it will be someday.
Oh.
What are some other fun moon terms, Emily Brewster?
Oh, what about the blood moon?
Ooh.
Do you know what this is?
No.
Is it a monthly moon? No.
No, it's not a monthly moon.
I mean, it is for me because that's when my cycle happens.
So then it's every monthly moon. Is it when there is a little bit of a lunar eclipse and it gives the moon a reddish red color?
Yes.
Woo!
Yes. It's a full moon that coincides with a full lunar eclipse and therefore has an unusually reddish appearance.
Yeah.
It's also the spot in Breath of the Wild where all of the monsters respawn and you have to go back and redo all the work you just did.
Oh, I don't know that game.
Ganon's power grows. It rises to its peak under the hour of the blood moon.
It's Zelda.
Oh, I never played that one. You know what? I only played the first 2 Zeldas.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're
Anyway.
missing out on a lot.
I know. Ocarina. People love that one.
People have love for pretty much all of them, with a handful of exceptions, but none of them are bad.
Noted. Other fun moon stuff, Emily Brewster?
I mean, there are interesting words like perigee and apogee and all that sort of thing.
I don't know apogee or perigee. I only know apogee.
I know Papagenos.
But they're not here anymore.
The point in the orbit of an object orbiting the Earth that is at the greatest distance from the center of the Earth.
Okay.
So if you're an object and you're out there going around the Earth, when you're furthest from the center of the Earth, that is when you are at your apogee. Yes. And perigee is the opposite of that. It's when you're closest to the center of the Earth.
And when you're really, really hungry and you have no other options, that's when you are at Applebee's.
Yes.
Who our friend Mark said's logo looks like an apple crying.
I mean, if you're getting drinks at Applebee's, you should probably just call the cab in advance.
Yeah. Emily Brewster, as we started this conversation, we were talking about how we teamed up with WNYC's Radio Lab and Salman Hamid to talk about the naming of a quasi-moon in our solar system, because we have a quasi-moon, not even in our solar system, in our orbit of Earth. Yep. So technically in our solar system, but even closer. And I know that the period of time to nominate what that moon would be called is over.
Yes, that was at the end of September.
I wanted to call it the Death Star, to reference Star Wars, because that's no moon.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
It's a quasi-moon. I know that I am not on the short list. That's the only thing I know, that there are 10 that they're working with.
The short list is out?
The short list is not out, but that Salman Hamid and Radio Lab have been working on the short list. So we should be seeing the short list of these names, and maybe one of our listeners suggested a moon name, and maybe it's in that short list. And then they'll work with the International Astronomical Union to actually name that. So we could be talking to Emily Brewster in the future about a name in the dictionary that is the quasi-moon of Earth, which would be...
That is so exciting.
Supermoon cool.
Yes. I want you to ask Salman about why we got 4 supermoons in a row.
Yeah.
That feels weird.
Yeah, this upcoming one is the 4th consecutive supermoon.
Can you ask? Do you mind?
Yeah. He won't be... You'll have to remember, I won't see him until after the March. But
what I'm going to do is put it in the sticky notes like everything else.
Well, we should probably do some sort of like food/hunger-related stuff next week.
Oh, okay.
Because the March will be coming up. Emily Brewster, are you marching this year? You've marched, and Merriam Webster have supported the Food Bank March many times over the years.
I am not planning to march.
Smart.
And I assume that Merriam Webster is still a supporter.
I'm going to dress up as a dictionary one of these years and march like that.
That sounds very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it does.
I don't think the Elphaba and Glinda from Wicked dresses that I'll be wearing will be overly comfortable either, but they're working on trying to make them so.
Awesome.
Up next, finding out from the next wave of Western Mass voters what they learned from this election by reporting for the Latino Election Project.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com. NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village Senior Living in Westfield, with support services designed to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. More at armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. The Latino Election Project is a collaboration between the Latino Newsletter and NEPM. The project was designed to train 3 high school student journalists from the Springfield area in multimedia content production focused on this year's election cycle. It was led by our friend Julio Ricardo Varela, who was on the show with us the day after the election last week. He's a longtime journalist and former president of the Pulitzer-winning Futuro Media. You can see our chat with him on our podcast feed.
Working with the NEPM News editorial team, the students and Julio created the production of 5 election-related stories and 3 public service announcements in both English and Spanish. Their work examined election issues through the lens of the Latino community.
The students are Ivani Santos and Halima Mohammed from Discovery Polytech High in Springfield and Ian Berger from Longmeadow. Danielle Lenoir Felton, who's interned with us here at Media Lab and NEPM, and the newsroom, is also assisted on the project. Everyone we've mentioned is in the studio with us. Welcome, everybody.
Hey.
It's been so great having you all around in the building over the last couple weeks and months working on this project.
Although we mostly saw like shadows of you moving between rooms because you would start working while we were doing this show.
Yeah, we'd watch you going into one of the other studios and doing all the great work that you did. But it would be great driving in the morning here to the studio and then hear the work that you've done on the radio. Maybe a good place to start is, where did this idea come from? Julio, you want to
Do you want me to jump in?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I started talking to Matt, who's the president of NEPM, early in the spring about how do we focus on Latino communities in places where they've been traditionally ignored and in most cases invisibilized. Mm-hmm. And there was a big commitment by New England Public Media to agree and say, like, yeah, no, we have to almost double down on amplifying that representation. And what better way than during the election?
Yeah.
And so in the summer, John Sutton, who's the VP of Audience and Content, and myself started coming up with this idea of a 9-week curriculum where the students, they all interviewed. Everyone interviewed for this job.
Nice.
And they all had to send me a pitch. We sent applications out in August, understanding that, like, is anyone really going to apply to this, like, students in the summer? And they did. And then the Latino newsletter sort of led the interview process, and then these 3 wonderful students came with pitches, and there were like 7 other wonderful students, but they came with 3 pitches. And I was kind of like, all right, let's turn these into stories. And then we met with the NEPM news team, and we were a little newsroom, right? And we had to pitch the NEPM news team, and we worked with outlines and scripting and PSAs, and then we started recording people. And the 3 people, the 3 students were like, Julio, what are we doing for the first couple of weeks? And then by the end, they're kind of like, wait, this is the last day? Like, we're done? We did 5 stories? Yeah. Halima told me before we got here in live radio, what did you tell me, Halima? Like, I'm going to, like, it's kind of a little bittersweet day, right? Or,
this is your last day for the Latino Legend Project.
What did you tell me in the lobby, that you were going to shed a tear?
Yeah, I was going to shed a tear.
Can you cry on our show? Because
no,
nothing makes people want to listen more than raw emotion in live radio.
Not that we don't.
Not that it hasn't happened.
Wholeheartedly encourage the outpour of emotion, but you cry enough for everybody on this show.
That is true.
So maybe we move on from that a little bit. So this experience, I'm curious if this experience was different for any of the 3 of you than any journalism that you've been doing in your high schools. Like, how different this experience was than what you do on campus. Or do you have the opportunity to do this on campus?
Halima. Was that you that was answering?
Halima's going to jump in, and then the others.
Then we'll go down the line.
Yeah.
On campus, we mainly have like regular high school classes, so this was like something new. I've never done it before. I always liked it because I watched like interviews on like YouTube and stuff. So to be able to do it myself was an amazing experience, and it's like you get to meet new people. Like when we went to the voting polls or voting booth, I like went up to complete strangers. At first, I was hesitant because, like, you have a mic and you're just going up to strangers. I was like, how would they, like, I thought, like, what if they say no? But they're very nice, so it's a nice experience.
Well, let's hear from another one of the cohort of the Latino Election Project, Ivani Santos. Tell us about what drew you to this project and maybe some of the things that made you want to apply in the first place.
In my school, we take college classes, and we've been taking them since freshman year, and we kind of have like our majors kind of in our college classes, and mine is communications and journalism, and I've been taking them for a while because I'm in 11th grade now, and I just wondered what it actually would be like, because in the classes, you're just learning, but in an internship you would go out into the field and record people, and like while doing it, it was very interesting to me because we actually got to interview people, and that's something I've never done before.
Slide that microphone over to Ian Berger. Goes to Longmeadow. Tell us about what drew you to the Latino Election Project, Ian.
If I'm being completely honest, it was mainly curiosity. My school or anything in my personal life, I've never even touched anything related to journalism. And this was mainly to see, is it something I will ever enjoy? Julio let me know in the interview that this was sort of going to be a lot of bases covered. You'll see if you really like it. And it was surprisingly enjoyable. With all due respect,
Julio gives it two thumbs
two
up.
Thumbs up.
That
two
answer.
Thumbs up from Ian. I like it.
It was I don't know what to say. It was just pretty welcoming, and I don't know. It was a positive experience.
That's cool. I mean, I'm kind of surprised to hear that there isn't like a lot of student journalism in the same way that I had student journalism on campus. Like we had a paper, and we had like a morning report thing
at Discovery or at Longmeadow. Like, do you all have?
Is there a paper?
Is there a paper?
Yeah, my school is a newspaper.
Longmeadow has. Discovery doesn't have a newspaper. Do they have anything for this type of work? Like that you know?
Besides the class that you're already taking.
Halima or Ivani, like just be close there.
No, they don't.
So
spoken like a true journalist.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting.
Just answer the question.
So
no, they don't.
That was the question.
Yeah.
Julio here is a well-decorated journalist, started the Latino newsletter, has worked with people who have won Pulitzer Prizes.
Yeah.
It's a legacy way of looking at the news. We work in radio. I've worked in radio for over 20 years. We're in some ways very old-fashioned. You are people who are still in high school. Where do you get your news from? And how have you applied, or how might you apply what you've learned here as part of the Latino Election Project to the future of news in a place where other people of your age are receiving it?
I look on Twitter, like for the election. I was actually on like Pop Base, and it's just like, it's a Twitter account that mainly posts about like pop culture. So I was like, it's so surprised that they're posting about the election on a social media app.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so this isn't normal. But I feel like in the future, I would probably look on like actual news websites for like journalists, and not just like social media and stuff.
Right. So that's interesting, though, because, I mean, you didn't mention a newspaper. You didn't mention turning on the radio. You mentioned social media sites.
Yeah.
And we're in an interesting period now where the person who owns that medium that you were talking about, Twitter or X, is now going to be part of the administration that won this particular election. What about either of two of you? Where do you get your news sources from? Ivani?
I usually either Instagram or TikTok, and I think that I can speak for a lot of people in my generation that we get a lot of our information from TikTok. And I think that in the future, if I were to ever go into journalism as a profession, I would make it like my stories pretty short, because I feel like the reason why we don't pick up newspapers or turn on the radio is because it takes more effort, as silly as that sounds. Like, if you just look something up and find it, it's a lot easier than having to find it in a newspaper or having to keep up with the newspaper when you can just open your phone and then have everything that happened today in your feed.
Does it feel like you're getting the fullest story when it isn't just little snippets like that? Or are you ever worried that maybe there might be more to the story?
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
Definitely not. Like, I feel like a lot of especially on TikTok, a lot of the politic things they're very biased, and I feel like you have to go out of your way to find real information if you want to have if you want to form your own opinion on anything.
Man, tear of pride.
What about you, Ian? Where are you?
Tear of
And
pride.
you're a Longmeadow student. Where are you and maybe the students in Longmeadow getting their news from?
If I'm being completely honest, she kind of just took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But I'm not very tapped in. If I do get some sort of knowledge regarding the election, it's like she said, it's like TikTok, Instagram, sort of short attention span type of things. And I'd agree with her that, there's kind of that, there's only so much of a wide net you can cast with short form content. A lot of this stuff is biased that you see. So, that's why I'm not political.
Yeah, Ian's the least political of the political journalists of the team.
Well, that might be the best way to cover
I mean,
politics.
and it was actually really refreshing in that sense. But then I'd be like, Ian, we still have to talk to this voter and this mayor. But then we talked to Mayor Garcia in Holyoke, and Ian was like, all right, I got like 10 questions for you. I was like, Ian, I thought you weren't political. And it's like, well, I'm just trying to get the facts, Julio. So I was like, oh, that's cool.
That's the future. That gives me hope for the future.
I am very hopeful with the three of these.
Yeah,
this group.
Well, let's take a little break. We're with the cohort of the Latino Election Project, which today is their last day. They did a series of 5 projects with NEPM in the news department here under the leadership of Julio Ricardo Varela. We're with Ivani Santos and Halima Mohammed from Discovery Polytech High, as well as Ian Berger from Longmeadow with Danielle in the background. And we're going to hear some of the work that they've done that they didn't get to make it to the air and talk about this actual election coming up in just a little bit.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We are talking to the student cohort of the Latino Election Project, a project of NEPM. They were covering this past election, and today is their last day. They're under the direction of Julio Ricardo Varela, a longtime journalist and former president of the Pulitzer Prize-winning Futuro Media. And the students are Ivani Santos and Halima Mohammed from Discovery Polytech in Springfield and Ian Berger from Longmeadow. We were talking to them about where they get their news from and how they've been going out to the polls and going to talk to people that are part of this election, including Mayor Joshua Garcia. But it seems that you also talked with each other, because we have a clip that didn't make it to air yet that you did with Ivani. Do you want to set this up a little bit for us, Julio?
I'm going to tease the clip, as they say in the business.
Yeah.
So this was audio that we did at the NEPM studio, like about 30 minutes after we went to a polling location in the north end of Springfield. And we were trying to capture reflections, and obviously with the results, we changed the direction of the last story. But I asked Ivani a question about the voting process, and I said, I got to use this audio somewhere. So I'm really glad that we're going to feature it in the Fab 413. So how's that for a toss?
There we go.
Perfect. Let's hear it.
Honestly, in my community, I don't really see a lot of people talking about voting. I know all the schools closed down so people can vote, but I never see anyone going. I know people do, but I just don't see people talking about it. I don't see people excited to vote. I just know it's a thing that happens. Maybe it's just because I'm a teenager. My old school's right there, my middle school. And I always went to the park that was right next to there. It was just a familiar place. And it was a voting place. And people voted. And it was cool.
That is Ivani Santos, one of the members of the Latino Election Project. The other clip that you gave us, Julio, has to do with the mayor, Joshua Garcia, mayor of Holyoke. Is this one of the questions that was asked by Ian, who thought he wasn't political but had...
Yeah, it was... So the question, we were talking about low voter turnout, one of Ian's questions, and that they were in predominantly Latino neighborhoods in Holyoke. And Mayor Garcia gave us this really interesting answer that I know Halima was, when she heard it, she was like, whoa, but we couldn't use it. And I'm like, we're using it now. And I think it speaks, and the reason why I wanted to share it is because when you look at it from the election that just happened, a lot of the Republican gains were made in districts where Latinos were ignored. And it was just a question of I'm going to knock on the door of someone in a neighborhood that's never been contacted. So this was Mayor Garcia, because he was the first Latino mayor in Holyoke, in the history of Holyoke, centuries history of Holyoke. And I thought it was interesting what he said.
I am the first Puerto Rican mayor, and there has been a whole new level of pride that I've witnessed in my community, which is fantastic, and a whole new interest from people that's never been involved in government before, getting involved, not only whether if it's serving on a board or committee, but if we're doing an initiative, if we're doing a neighborhood meet, there are people, they're active, right? They're feeling strong and prideful and hopeful, and they're involved, which is fantastic. So when I was running for mayor, there were 6 candidates total running, and I was the last one. I was number 6. And I came in late in the game. And traditionally, what do campaign people tell you? Like when you're campaigning, go into the affluent neighborhoods because that's where the votes are. And so I had a consultant that was really good with numbers and said, look, this is what I need you to do. Don't knock on those, because this was only the primaries. Don't knock on those doors. Go downtown Holyoke into those poor precincts that I was telling you about where the voter turnout's low. Go down there and knock on those doors. And I'm like, that's crazy. Everybody knows you need to come uptown. And he says, well, the 5 other candidates are doing that. So the 5 other candidates were in the affluent neighborhoods, stealing each other's votes, and none of them were knocking downtown. And if I can get every person downtown to vote Garcia, that'll be just what I need to make it into the finals. And it worked. I couldn't believe it.
An interesting insight from the mayor of Holyoke there in response to his own election, but with parallels to what went on last week in the election here.
Well, especially in light of that, now I'm going to ask another broad question. I apologize in advance, but I'm curious if, like, doing the work for this and talking to folks changed your opinion about voting in either national or local elections for yourself and how important it is or is not.
Let's start with Halima.
I mean, when this election happened, or like this year I'm 17, so I couldn't really vote. And I didn't feel motivated since most of my peers weren't voting. So I was like, I don't want to feel left out. Even though it isn't something that you should think about what others think, it's still like, I don't want to say, guys, I voted. And then everyone's like, who'd you vote for? Because then it's like intimidating. I don't want to lose like friends over politics. So I was like, I'd rather keep that to myself. But hopefully after these 4 years, then I'll vote. I'll be in my 20s, like my early 20s. A little excited, but it's whatever. I think this year's election did surprise me a lot, and I feel like being older now, I'm like, I would want to vote. And I'm actually like looking at the ballot questions. I actually didn't think people would take the Massachusetts election serious. I was like, they really took MCAS out? I was like so upset. Like,
because you like MCAS?
No, because we struggled with it. And
sorry.
But yeah.
Well, that remember when you do vote that you don't have to tell anybody how you voted, and you can say exactly what you said to us.
Exactly.
I don't feel like telling
answer.
you. Yeah. So, what about you? Let's go with Ian. What do you think about Khalees's question there?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Like, did working on this project change your opinion on, how, like, the importance of you voting in either national or local elections?
Yeah. So for both national and local elections, talking to these figures and these voters and this whole project as a whole has made it feel, honestly, more open. I kind of felt like there was a sort of like a light switch. There was sort of like oh, you're either super far to the right or you're either super far to the left, and it's hard to come to agreements with people, but there's a lot of ways you can there's a lot of judgment going into your vote. There's a lot of factors that affect it, and I don't know, it changed my viewpoint of how people vote and how I might vote one day.
Ivani Santos.
So on a national level, I feel like in Massachusetts, we've always been blue, and I didn't feel like that changed while interviewing people. I kind of saw that reflected in their answers. But in Massachusetts specifically, like all the things they passed and the things that they didn't pass, like it really put into perspective how important it is to vote, because a lot of things changed. Like MCAS, like Halima said, MCAS changed. I thought that was pretty monumental because I feel like it was for the better. So I think that when I turn of age, I would want to vote now.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we did this, they all got to talk to about, Danielle, probably like 12 guests, 15 voices, like voters and all that. And it opened up that, we talked to several people who were talking about the changes in Latinos becoming more independent, that national trend, and it was happening here in Western Mass. And we learned a lot. And, the best thing we did here, even though I was like the director, I was never Mr. Varela. I was never like the teacher. We were a newsroom. And I was just, we were all journalists, and every one of them gave it their all. And the work is just spectacular, and we're really proud of it. And we're really proud that the Latino newsletter partnered with NEPM, and we gave a slice of Latino Western Mass to audiences. And to hear Spanish spoken and just, I was just like, whoa, this is cool. Right? Like to Ivani's point, it is cool. And, as the music goes, you got to love it. I love the music choices today.
I went with All Bad Bunny.
Of course you did. Of course you went with All Bad Bunny.
I thought that might be the moment that got Halima to cry on the radio. But
no.
It is there.
Are you trying to make her cry?
A little bit. In a good way.
Damn.
It is the last day of the Latino Election Project
adults.
under the auspices of the Latino newsletter, under the direction of Julio Ricardo Varela, and with the students from Discovery Polytech, Ivani Santos and Halima Mohammed, as well as from Longmeadow, Ian Berger, and with an assist from Daniela Noir Felton in the back over there. It's been great hearing from all of you, and you can still check out all of this at nepm.org.
Yeah,
and
we'll
look
link
for the
to that
Latino.
page where they're all collected on our podcast notes.
On the next Fabulous 413, we'll be in Holyoke talking about the Compost Collective.
We'll also speak with John Tedeschi about his short film on banned books and more.
We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.
Bye.